think as we go to the second line, the third line, the fifth line, the seventh line, what we're increasingly doing is moving these transit systems into locations where they're less likely to be transit users. They're typically higher income, and so you're having to spend a lot of money to go after people who've got a lot of options in life. They're increasingly being used to go down corridors where we're having to remove road capacity in order to satisfy the need for right-of-way, which these systems have. And increasingly, in order to justify them, the proponents are having to argue that there's going to be all this spin-off development, whether it's office building or commercial development or employment. So when projects are proposed, they're not necessarily being proposed from the point of view of trying to solve transportation problems and to provide additional infrastructure for commuters to use, but they're really viewed as systems to try to appeal to the heartstrings of federal legislators.
TriMet's history shows they cancel bus service whenever new light rail lines are opened, forcing riders to take the train. As a result, their light rail ridership data becomes artificially inflated. After the Milwaukee light rail line opens, TriMet plans to shut down the express bus service to Milwaukee, forcing riders to transfer to the slower train. If light rail is extended into Vancouver, express bus service from c-tran's Portland to Vancouver will be terminated. If bus commuters are forced to ride a slow train, they can expect their commute to increase from 16 minutes to 36, one way.
If I had my say, I would require TriMet to restore express bus service in all of the corridors that are served by MAX and give people a chance to actually have superior service on a bus.
Government has a monopoly on our road system. They're not improving mobility, they're trying to dampen mobility. Mobility has a direct connection, a very direct relationship to economic health in a region. And when you reduce mobility, you reduce that economic health. Clark County residents are in a very unique position because they can look towards the light rail projects that they have in the south, in Portland, and also to the north in Seattle. Seattle, they told voters in 1996 that they would serve about 100,000 trips per day for about $3.9 billion. Fast forward to today, and costs are approaching $20 billion, and they're only moving about 30,000 to 35,000 trips per day. So very different than what they promised voters. And I think residents here can expect that same sort of result. That light rail is going to be way more expensive than what they were promised, and it's going to carry fewer people than what they were told as well. So what that means is you have the potential of light rail soaking up all of the available transportation money in this region, right? Tax money is finite, and you have to spend it in the right places that have the biggest impact. And if you're moving very few people on a system that costs a lot of money, that's the very definition of inefficiency. Meanwhile, leaving everything else that carries 90 to 95% of the rest of us to languish.
I think the decision to tear down and replace that bridge is misguided. The whole philosophy behind the transportation planning for, at least in Oregon, has been that we should try to increase the number of connections from community to community, neighborhood to neighborhood, and yet this continues to focus on one particular bridge. I think we could take the same amount of money and build many bridges over the Willamette and over the Columbia. Second, the project was larded down with the burden of trying to put in a light rail line. And the estimate that I've seen is that out of the $4 billion cost to build that bridge, $1 billion of it comes from the construction of the light rail line to complement it. Now, for a system which has so few users, that's an incredible amount of money to be spending. It's a little bit hard to know what you can do at this point. I would just simply say, declare success and stop the project.
So we should just stop, admit it didn't work in Seattle, it's not working in Portland, and move to a rubber-tired, road-based transit system that at least has a chance of providing people the service they want at a price we can afford.
In some ways, the light rail lines that we've built have been kind of a signature for Portland. much in the way, say, the Gateway Arch is a signature for St. Louis. It's what St. Louis is known for, and so maybe what we're known for here in Portland is is our light rail system. But I think that St. Louis had the common sense to build one Gateway Arch and stop, and not build 3 or 4 or 5. And I think we should do the same with respect to light rail.
It would be nice if people could learn from the 26-year experience of light rail in Portland. Decision makers in this region don't want to learn. They're all in, they have their story, and they're sticking to it. They are unwilling to admit that it didn't work out the way they wanted, but having been a light rail commuter, recognizing that it has fatal flaws and the flaws can't be solved, my recommendation, certainly for people in Vancouver and people in far southwest Portland, where there might be more lines coming, is to look at the experience and recognize that anything light rail can do, bus service can do better, cheaper, and faster. And there's no shame in making a mistake. The only shame is in repeating the mistake over and over and over with public money that our officials are charged with managing wisely. But the only way for citizens to be heard, I believe, is probably through a local ballot box.